Welcome to Pole Barn Guru and our live conversation here. I have a longtime acquaintance of mine through business, Mike Schweiss. And over the 20 years of Hanson Pole Buildings providing post-frame building kits for our clients, we've had at least 100 cases of people that needed doors that were going to be wider or bigger than what's practical for a sectional overhead door, or just wasn't practical for a sliding door application. And so most of those end up being what I would refer to as a hanger door, although they're for lots of different purposes. And at least 90% of those doors have been provided to our clients by Schweiss Doors. Now, my guest today is Mike Schweiss. Remarkably, the name and the business match to some extent. And I'm going to let Mike talk a little bit about some of the applications that they have done. And we'll get into some considerations that you should think about if you're in need of a large door. So, Mike, I'm going to turn the floor over to you to give us some background and educate and inform us.
Okay, well, I started manufacturing doors in 1980. I went to a wedding dance one night, and this guy came up to me and said, "Your name is Mike. You'll build anything." And I said, "Yeah, what do you have in mind?" And he said, "You should build bifold doors." I said, "Well, what's a bifold door?" And he says, "Come and see me next week." And so we both went out on the dance floor, and he died that evening on the dance floor at Gibbon, Minnesota. And so the rest was history. And then 6 months later, I kept reminiscing that night, and I said, there the man gave me an idea. Now let's carry through with it. And so I started manufacturing doors, and one door at a time. The first one I made wrong every which way. I had to cut it in half and widen it out because I didn't know what I was doing. And now I jokingly say I keep making doors every day yet because I'm trying to improve them each door at a time, one door at a time. And we've done thousands and thousands and thousands of doors.
Well, and I will chip in here and say that I've always looked upon your business model as one that is constantly striving for perfection, and I appreciate that greatly in any manufacturer, because I've always felt that our buildings are the same way. We have what I think is a great building, and we're always looking for a way to make it better. And I know you do the same with your doors.
And it takes, and the thing is, and the same goes as your company, you got to live your job. And that's what I do. Everybody asks me if I go golfing or fishing. I said, no, I'm a very boring person. I do doors. And yet I find it very entertaining.
Yep, I can relate to you entirely there. I have recently graduated here in the past year. My wife has been bugging me for years that I needed to find a hobby. So I've got a 1950 Chevy pickup that I've owned for 45 years. And my little brother did most of the restoration work for me. And so I started showing it here in the last year. And so now I jokingly say that my wife has my picture now glued to the milk carton in the refrigerator with a little note saying, "Have you seen this man?" But yeah, I'm the same way. It's like I'm at car shows and I'm writing myself notes about, okay, let's try this, or let's look at doing this. So I'm sure you're every bit as bad, if not worse, than me.
Yeah, no, I'm a basket case. I'm just like you, way out to lunch. And I always tell people, my friends, my coworkers, I says, when somebody asks you a question and you have to say no, I says, give me that question, because I pride ourselves in never saying no. Every time somebody's asking you a question, it gives you an ability to learn and figure out how to do it a better way.
Oh, man, that's a great attitude to have. And With me, I've always told our team that it's all about the building, and if you take care of the building, everything else takes care of itself. And I know that you're the same way with doors. It's all about the door, and if you take care of the door, everything else takes care of itself too.
Right, correct.
So let's say I'm Joe, potential building owner, and I need a big door for I'm going to put an airplane through it, or a combine. What kind of questions should I be asking you, or because I know nothing, so I'm counting on you to make sure I get the right choice for me. So what direction are you going to head me in?
So here I'm in the door business, but I turn around and ask them because I'm trying to educate my customer. My customers they'll say, oh, I think I need probably a 36-foot door by 12 high or 14 high, and then I ask them the overall size of their building. None of my business, but it is my business because I've been around long enough that we can give them a little direction. And so if they say they want a 36-foot door, I always push them 6 feet bigger. And sooner or later, they'll end up using it or thanking me for advising them to go bigger. And you can never go wide enough. You can never go tall enough.
Absolutely. That sounds like me with building footprints, is that no matter what you build, it will not be big enough.
Then the other thing is, on that same note, some people, they'll say they want to put up a 40 by 90. And I says, my opinion is just my opinion, but I said, you never want to build a long, narrow tunnel, because once you get that long, narrow tunnel built, you want to add on to it in a few years once you found out it's too small. So you're better off bringing that 90 back to, say, 60 and go wider, because you never want to add on to a long, narrow tunnel to begin with, because then you're shooting yourself in the foot 20 times.
Yeah. Well, I agree with you, and you build that long, narrow tunnel, and pretty soon you find you can never get to the things that are in the back of the tunnel.
Right. It's like filling up a storage container, a shipping container. You take 8 feet wide and you go in there, pretty soon you only got a little bit on the left and a little bit on the right, and you don't want your building like that. I always say, when people put up a building, then you go in and you'd say 40 foot. And I elaborate on the door on the building, because I want to make their door experience a good experience. And you go into a 40-foot building, and now you put a 4-foot workbench on the left side or the right side, doesn't leave you with much.
No, it certainly doesn't. And I know that I have talked to people over the years that say, well, I want to put up a 40 by whatever building, and I want to put a 40-foot wide hangar door on one end of that building. Well, that's great and wonderful, but like you said, you have wasted both of your walls. Plus, the one thing that the average consumer doesn't understand is that buildings work together, all the components to make this hold up. It's not just because, at least in our case with a post frame building where you've got posts and trusses, they're not doing all the work. It's the skin that holds the building together. And the wind loads that go into the sides of the building and the roof of the building get transferred out to the end walls. And if your end wall is all door, there's nothing to take the load down to the ground. So besides the practicalities of not being able to have workbenches and utilize the wall space, is that chances are huge that the end wall of that building is going to rack, and then Mike Schweiss's beautiful door that you invested in isn't going to work on the end of your building.
Yeah. And what I find out, I always say this, and my door will find the building's weak spot. First thinking, but it's a mouthful. So we have the spec sheets, our data sheets saying what we're advising you to go with, and if they skimp on that in any which way, we as the door company will get the first complaint call. And then when we have to point back to the building guy, then it's a bad day.
Yeah, well, and the number one thing that, you know, I know that I'm preaching to the choir as far as you, but as far as clients looking for a door provider is, we get the best information on the planet. And we've had to deal with lots of door suppliers from Schweiss, because you give us all the loads and where they have to be connected, what those loads are, and it just makes our life so easy. We know in advance what we're going to get, and we don't have to guess.
And I always say, when you're, and you know this already, because if your name isn't being brought up, that's a good sign, because only the troubled companies, their name surfaces, and then they want to do the pointing of the fingers. So you're hitting a home run by what you're doing, because as far as issues, your building has been very, very, very good for the Schweiss team.
No, well, and we appreciate that. I know we're dealing with a client right now that is going to be putting up a very large airplane hangar in Wyoming, and building's 80-foot clear span, and he's putting a 60-foot wide door in his end wall. And of course, he didn't ask us apparently, or didn't listen to us when we made suggestions for door suppliers. And he's using a supplier that I had never dealt with before, with a fabric door. And okay, so they send all their information over, and their information says that this door is entirely self-supporting. So okay, great, wonderful. You know, I don't have to worry about, you know, loads hanging off my end trusses, those kinds of things. Well, you know what? The advertising promotional information they send out and what happens in real life do not match. And it turns out this door is accounting on our building to support about 8,000 pounds of weight that they didn't tell us about in the beginning. So unfortunately, the poor client is the one who's getting hammered on this now, because he's going to have to pay for us to re-engineer the end of his building to support a door that was sold to him as being a self-supporting door. And thank goodness that, I mean, you folks, you are what you say you are, and you present it exactly how it is. And there's no question to the client, the building provider, the installers. It's all right up front. And I can't tell you how much I appreciate that. So yeah, you can put me down for a testimonial anytime you need me on that one.
No, that's good to hear. And you know, that same issue, if the end wall isn't built sufficient enough for the door, but there's companies out there that are misleading, and they're saying it puts no stress on the end wall of the building. That's a mouthful said, and it's not a truthful mouthful. And I always say this, if it's my door or Brand X door or that other new guy on the block, when the door is operating, I'll go out to the job site and I'll hold my hand up on the column and I'll stand there, and they'll think I'm being lazy and resting my body, but I wait for the shaking of the column and the building rattling, and then now your freestanding door is no longer a freestanding door because it's shaking the heck out of your building. And that's not good for the screws or the end wall. It's a very misleading deal. I would rather overbuild it than underbuild it. And then
absolutely,
the misleading fact that they say it puts no stress on your building. Come on, guys. Come on, guys. Um, I guess I'm too honest that I won't be caught saying that.
Yeah, well, and because I understand the engineering principles behind it, is it would be possible to build an actual freestanding door system, but it's going to take a significant system to be able to be that way. And in this particular case, I was shaking my head going into this one. Just I'm very, very skeptical, and unfortunately, all my fears did come to fruition in it. And so I feel for the client in the end, because they got sold a bill of goods, in my opinion.
And another note to help you guys out on that issue, we oftenly make freestanding headers, and it kind of takes the pain away out of the wood building or any structure, whether it be steel. We make a freestanding header, and so they made a mistake, or somebody made a mistake, or somebody got sold a bill of goods that weren't meshed together. The freestanding header will take away the pain.
Now, you'd happen to have handy somewhere a photo of that you could have somebody grab for you, so we can throw that up on the screen, because I think people'd like to see that.
David,
Get ready to.
I'll see what I can find here. Want to get me a piece of door literature?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll see what I can find here. I got something. And go to the freestanding header page.
Yeah, and Tyler says he can always add that in for us later on too. But I think it's some good information for people, so that they actually can get a feel for what this solution would look like, so that if they're talking to somebody else and they're not hearing or seeing this, but it might wave some flags that they want to give this a little deeper consideration, or maybe just go to the experts in the beginning and give you a call.
And the thing is, here's a picture of a freestanding header. Do you have a good view on it?
I have a great view of that.
So here I'm showing the freestanding header on a building. Here's another one on a hydraulic door. Here's another one. So I mean, we elaborate. I have guys that we made freestanding headers for 120 foot wide, and they have an existing building. There's no engineering there, so we come in and make the freestanding header and tie it to their structure. And what we just gotta make sure that we tie our header back into the existing building, and we just don't want we keep their building just to keep the door from tipping out. So we use it as an anchor.
Okay. Yeah, that's awesome that you have that kind of service for people. And but say with our buildings, because you've given us all the information in the beginning, we're going to design to meet or exceed what the specifications are that you're giving us. So we're incorporating that into our design in the beginning, which I'm not sure that lots of people have that capability. I know that there's a lot of post frame buildings that go up in jurisdictions that don't require plan reviews. But in many cases, you don't even have to have a permit. Texas being one of those states where if you're outside of a major metropolitan area, you can build pretty much anything you want.
Yep. And then on a second note, I'm going to show you we have a wood book that we designed. It's on our website. We advise you as a builder. We lead you down to what column size you have for a door. And David, bring me the wood book details. Anyway, it's have you ever seen that at all from us?
And I haven't, but once again, because everything we do is fully engineered, so we're taking all your numbers and plugging them into what we're doing. But that's great that you have that tool available, and hopefully you've got everybody taking advantage of it, because unfortunately, like you were saying, is somebody underbuilds their building and puts a great door on it. Well, it's only as good as the weakest link, and if the building has problems because it wasn't designed to accommodate the door properly. And unfortunately, they call the door guy. And yeah.
Yeah, no, and there's so many elements to it. And like you said, you've been down that road. Here's the page that I'm talking about. It's showing the column sizes. Can you have a visual on that?
But and I do, and for those of you that are listening in here, it's available on Mike's website. So, and we'll make sure that you have the website address, and we'll give people your your phone number too, so they can reach out to you. And I think one thing that's important for at least Hanson Pole Buildings clients to know is that we have you work directly with Schweiss Doors. So we're not going to buy their product and add money to it and mark it up and sell it to you. We want you to be able to go right to the horse, right to the manufacturer, and that way there's no misinterpretation as to what the door's capabilities are, and you're going to hear it right from the experts. So you offer several different alternatives for doors. So I'll give you a chance to explain to clients why one type of door might be a better design solution for them than another.
I always say that I started out manufacturing bifold doors, and then there was a certain party that came in and they started making hydraulic doors, and they were out speaking the gospel that they're the best doors in the world. And I said, I cannot listen to all the myths they were telling. And one of the myths would be, you don't have to do nothing to your building, just go up and hang the door on it. And so we came out with our door, and now I say we can talk out of both sides of our mouth. You want the bifold, you want the hydraulic, we got the best of both worlds, a bifold or hydraulic. And there are two different characters of doors, and they both have their place. And is one going to overtake the market? It's the customer will drive that.
So, and just me being uneducated in this one, or coming across that way. So why would me as an end user prefer one type of door over another? Or what's the benefits of each of those types of doors?
What I like about the bifold door is they fold up in half, and so you're not swinging out into the driveway, and you use your door every day. And so let's say you open up the bifold, you can drive out. Let's say one of your family members comes up to your building and they want to park in front of that door. With a hydraulic door, you got to stay back 10 feet. With a bifold, you can drive right up to it just enough so you can walk the vehicle there. And that's a big selling point. And in the snow country area, a lot of the hydraulic doors are built with a truss on the bottom. And now it ends up being a big scoop in the wintertime for the snow, where bifolds lift up and out of the snow. If you order one of both doors, you'll soon learn the differences.
And then I really hadn't thought about the issue of the hydraulic door becoming a snowplow. And I mean you're talking about there, and I'm just visualizing this in my head. I could just see that 5 foot high snowdrift in front of that door, and that door trying to open up through that. And so I can see where that definitely would not be the best design solution in most cases if you're in snow country.
Let me draw you a visual. And years ago, when I started making bifold doors, we had the truss in the center on the outside of the bifold. And everybody takes pride in their building, and they didn't want that ugly truss sitting on the outside. Well, then here comes the hydraulic doors, and now they put a truss down at the bottom where the leaves, the snow, and the stuff can blow in it. Now imagine 4 feet of snow outside your building, and you're going to bring your skid loader, your snow blower, and you want to get as close as the building sheeting as you can. And then you forgot that, oh, shoot, there's a truss down there, so you just got done hitting the truss. You know, it goes on and on and on. And those are the things. And then there's a web truss on the bottom, and that fills with snow. And then you got to shovel that off. I mean, I'm not telling a fib here. It's the way it is.
No, but you're absolutely correct in that, and that certainly lets me know that when our team is next together and we're talking about options, that that's definitely one that we need to be bringing up to people, and it's one more reason why we want our clients to talk to the experts, because that guy that is in Montana or Wyoming or upstate New York, that's a real consideration. Is what are you going to do when you've got that big pile of snow sitting there, and you don't want to end up hating your door. And we don't want people to hate their doors or their buildings. That's the idea, is to get them buildings that are structurally sound that they'll love forever.
Another thing that's really annoying for the hydraulic people is if you've never had a bifold before and you have a hydraulic, then you won't know the difference. But if you've had a hydraulic and a bifold, when you open up the hydraulic, you open it up, say 2-3 feet, and then you got to sneak into the sides. Where a bifold, you open it up and you can walk out underneath it. And it's really annoying to have that door sticking into your driveway, whether you're going by with a 4-wheeler or whatever. It's just a head knocker. And it's hard to gauge how far your door is open with a hydraulic. And there's nothing worse than bringing your motorhome in and hitting your hydraulic door because you forgot to open it up the full height.
Yeah, that would definitely hurt. Well, and said I grew up flying. My dad had a 182 Cessna, and he kept it down a hangar at Phelps Field in the Spokane Valley. And the hangar that he had of all things, bypassing sliding doors. I remember opening them doors, and there was nothing but a fight. No, poor, but I recognize that people, they at times they'll be penny wise and pound foolish, and they'll sacrifice the quality and the functionality, thinking that it's going to be a more cost effective solution. In the end, all it ends up is being cheap.
Yeah, then the other thing is, on a bifold or hydraulic, you can put a man door, pedestrian door in each one of them. And that's a nice add to the building, so you don't have to, you're not losing that valuable building space. You can enter in through the driveway of your building.
Yeah, and that is a great feature, especially since so often hangars have a huge door, usually in an end wall with not too much solid wall left on each side of them. So they end up putting an entry door around the side. And if you're in snow country, well, next thing you know is you've got a big pile of snow in front of your entry door. So by being able to have that ability to put an entry door through that larger door, it saves a plethora of challenges down the line. So that's a great feature, and hopefully lots of people give that some consideration.
Yes, that's for sure.
So I know from years of reading the Frame Building magazine and Rural Builder magazine that you have done some interesting and fascinating applications for some of your doors. So maybe you could share what you look upon as your top few very interesting solutions using your doors.
I think the big thing that drives people to our company is that what I said originally when we started out, I never try to say no. And So we're trying to be accommodating to the end user. If he calls us up and he wants to put glass on it, or special steel siding on, or decorative windows, we try accommodate that. And since then, we started a division in our company. We make a bifold door and a hydraulic door, and we call them the designer door. That means we're going to do something really special for your door. And all the photos you see on our website, our customers send to us, and we don't have to beg them for photos. They're proud of their project and their building.
Yeah, well, and although I've seen the article involving it, as I look behind you on above your right shoulder, you've got a pretty interesting application there. So I have seen it. Yeah, it's amazing some of the things that you guys have done, and it's got to be something that is a great source of pride for you and your team, that you have come up with some just incredible solutions for people over the years.
It's been fun, and the word's catching on, and it's like everybody wants to jump on the bandwagon and go with something unique, and like airplane pilots are into making man caves, and everybody's trying to, just like you have your car, they want to have their hangar decked out, and we try to help them fulfill that.
Yeah, and there is competition between airplane pilots. I know that there's a little airport about an hour north of New York City where we over the years have supplied at least a dozen buildings to this airport, and the first two were 40 by 40 hangars, and they're buddies, so they built exactly the same building. And then every subsequent building that went up there was taller, wider, deeper, had better doors, and they're adding living quarters into these. And by the time we got down to the last lot that was left there on the airport, you look back at the first building, look at the last building, and you're going, well, this is a whole nother world from each other.
Another thing, with that being said, you talked about everybody one little bigger, and so when the people call in, at least they get to speak to me, and I'll advise them on the door. So let's say they want a 40 by 13 door, and I says, you know what size plane do you have? And then we try match up the door to the plane, and then not only that, but I says build that hangar door for a resale, because the next guy may get a helicopter. And so because here, if they love your building, they love your inside, how you decked it out, and it would be a crying shame if your building wasn't made tall enough to house the airplane, or wide enough.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And
that money spent up front will pay you dividends on time of resale. Here, the neighbor's hangar will sell first because he had the right size building and door on it, where you're stuck with yours until you find that niche, that unique pilot that's got that small plane.
Yeah. No, I mean, you may design a hangar that's perfect for your Piper Cub or your 182 Cessna. Well, when you're ready to sell, move on, and the potential buyer owns a twin, if your building won't accommodate it, he's passing on to the next guy. So I encourage the same just for resale value in every building. Guys will say, well, I only want a 12-foot tall overhead door. So, well, okay, that's great. And so when you go to sell your piece of property, and the person that is looking to be your potential buyer has a motorhome that's 12'6", well, he's moved on down the road because he couldn't get in your building. So no, it's wise advice on your hand there. One thing that I think we should address here, because it's been such an issue here in the last year is the rising costs of raw material and even availability. And so what are you seeing from your end as far as you being able to get the materials you need to fabricate your doors?
We've been very fortunate, other than I'm willing to pay the price. Steel went from what we were paying 39 cents to 42 cents a pound a year ago, and now it's $1.20. And that's a big increase, and most of my material in my door is steel. And we've had some price increases. I didn't go up enough. I just don't know when it's going to stop or slow down. Back in 08 or 09, steel was up to 80 cents a pound, and overnight it went down to 40. And I'm dreaming that those days come back again. Whether it's going to happen or not, I don't know.
Yeah, no, it's tough, and I know you're in the same spot we're in. We try to be as gentle to our client base as possible, and I always hate having to raise prices. I mean, I guess it'd be nice if we could raise our prices and we're the ones that got to make the extra money off it, but it doesn't work that way. We if anything else, our margins get squeezed. Because we are trying to look out for our clients, no different than you do yours too. And when you have the price of your raw materials triple in a short time span, it's just as painful for you, I'm sure. So.
Yeah, no, it's been a real issue, but so far the big thing is we've been able to get our steel, and we haven't had to use the excuse that we can't get it.
Well, and that's good. I know that we do have some people that supply various components with us. They're having real struggles with that now, and so I would say you've been very fortunate in that respect. Well, I don't want to take up your whole day here, Mike, but opportunity here. Tell the listeners anything you would like to that I think that you feel would be important for them to hear.
Well, from what Mike has said on the podcast here today is that he definitely cares about his building, and that's your number one goal in setting out to do a project. Is when somebody cares about their product and they're not passing it off to another guy and another guy and another guy. And some companies are 3-4 levels deep. And then when you always want someplace you can go back to and speak to somebody like Mike. In my case, the buck stops with me and the buck stops with the other Mike. And I think that is, it's worth a little extra to get that good feeling.
Oh, well, and I appreciate your kind words, Mike. And like I said in our start off here before we were live, is some of my best friends are named Mike, and there's a reason for us. I think us Mikes are pretty straight shooters, and we'll make sure that we have included your website address and your phone number on this before Tyler gets done polishing it up. But you've got a great product, great customer service. I said this is not a testimonial for Schweiss Doors, but it's a testimonial for Schweiss Doors. You potential clients out there that are watching this, take this to heart. Take me seriously when you need a door that is going to be unique, it's going to meet your needs, that's going to supply us as building providers and designers with all the tools we need to make sure it comes off without a hitch. I'm going to send you the Schweiss door every time. So, I'm not sending you to Mike because I think he's going to be the cheapest every time, because if he is, I'd be worried. And he's probably not the most expensive every time, but you'll definitely get your bang for your investment. I really want to thank you, Mike, for your time this morning. It's been a pleasure. And hopefully we'll have a frame builders show next year, so we can catch up to each other and get to see each other face to face instead of having to utilize technology.
Yes. Well, thank you, Mike.
Well, thank you. You have yourself a great day.
Thank you.
Okay, you take care, Mike.